This is Tracy Taylor with the Wasatch Taxpayers Association. We're conducting some interviews of candidates for the Republican primary election, June 25th. Ballots are out. You might have already gotten them. Keep an eye out for them, please. And also you can check us out at wasatchtaxpayersassociation.com for the latest Wasatch County information, and also join us. We'd love to have you. So today we have Colleen Bonner with running for the Wasatch County open seat, which is a county-wide seat. So everybody in the county gets to vote. Colleen, tell everybody why you're running, why did you decide to run, and then also what experience you have or a little bit about yourself.
All right, so I'm going to start with my experience. So I have 12 years of experience working on the Midway City Council and 4 years serving as the mayor in Midway City. I have been out of politics for 6 years and I've retired. So I have time now, and I just wanted something to do. And when I visited with Steve Farrell and he said he wasn't going to run again, I thought, you know what, this would be a good time to do it. I've got the time and hopefully the experience to bring, some of the things that I learned in the 16 years of being on the council in Midway and as the mayor, and hopefully I can bring that to Wasatch County.
Great. There's some issues that are happening right now, and people really care about these issues. So we want to talk about the bypass road in the Northfields right off the bat, because it is a huge issue for the public. Somehow conservation easements of the Northfields got versus the bypass, and somehow this polarity happened within the community, which we're not quite sure how that all happened. I mean, we've been waiting for this bypass road to happen for 20 years, so we're still waiting. They're still not done. So, I want to talk to you a little bit about how the community maybe has changed in the last 6 years since you were mayor. I know Midway had an open space bond back then, and there was some concerns, I know, in the county or in Midway City about an open space bond and what that would mean. And so, how do you feel? I did notice that you came out with a new ad talking about open space, and we did get reports that back at the convention you were saying basically, you'd allow UDOT to go where they need to go.
That's what we heard. Represented, yes.
Okay, that's why I'm bringing it up.
Right.
Is just what the community's talking about. Also at the Laren Gertsch Conservation public hearing, there was some discussion with a community member that you would allow UDOT to go through if they needed to. So this is the time to clarify.
Great.
And talk about maybe why you came out with this ad at this time, being more supportive of preserving the Northfields, and maybe why those ideas changed a little bit in the last couple months.
Okay, great question. And I think it's more that there was a misunderstanding of what I had said.
Okay.
So I was at that meeting when your Wasatch Upland Lands Board presented their presentation for Laren Gertsch's property. The Northfields, to me, as like I said in my article, are a crown jewel of our county. Mm-hmm. But we've got this transportation issue that, in order to maintain some of the quality of life that we enjoy here, that brings people to our county, we have got to fix. So, like you mentioned, it's been probably closer to 30 years that we've been talking about a bypass, and it's been pushed down the road and pushed down the road and pushed down the road. And so I am not in favor of just throwing it in at the path of least resistance straight down the middle of the Northfields. I don't think that would be a benefit to anyone. But I do believe there is a way that we could do it and have both. And as I went into Salt Lake yesterday, and I'm driving down the 215, and I'm thinking, in my mind, I think this is what people in Wasatch County are thinking, this is what a bypass is. concrete on either side, concrete in the middle, and a big wide road. I think there's other ways to do it. I think there's ways to do it and design it so that it can be a benefit, it can provide the service that we need, but that it does not destroy the integrity of the Northfields. And in my article or on Facebook, I think I was sharing with someone that I feel like when this EIS study is done, that UDOT is doing, that we bring all our players together. Wasatch Open Lands Board, Heber City, Wasatch County, the residents of the Northfield, and say, okay, we have to have this. Where do we put it? What do we do? And I know
Do you
that
think UDOT is gonna listen to us?
I believe in the public process, and I think if the county could get in the driver's seat with a lot of support from the community, that they would listen. That is my hope, is that they would listen. I think that's been part of the argument and misunderstanding, is that UDOT's just gonna do whatever they want to do.
Well, let me just bring up a thing that maybe people aren't aware of. Yeah, I'm on the Wasatch Open Lands Board for the county with these conservation easements. I should have disclosed that.
That's
I
okay.
did before with another candidate,
That's okay,
but
yeah.
yeah, just so I'm kind of aware of what's going on. But UDOT went from an 80-foot wide bypass to a 120-foot wide bypass, and now the latest we've heard is a 250-foot wide bypass. This is part of the problem.
Right.
Is there's no pushback or not enough pushback from our community to UDOT and go, we don't need 250-foot wide bypass road.
Right, so basically what you're describing, I think, is the 215 route, as you take the 215 into South.
Yeah, or like Mountain View Corridor. Somebody
Yes.
told me Mountain View Corridor down on the southwest side of.
And I think that as a community, and I'm going to use that to preserve the quality of life, because that's what I believe this can do, but there's got to be some compromises and some working together, and design, how it is designed makes a huge difference.
Well, let me put this map in front of you. It's the
I
five.
should have worn my reading glasses.
Here, you
That's
can have
okay.
mine. I've seen this a million times, but these are the 5 options that UDOT has come out with, and I would like you to determine which ones you are willing to support moving forward if you become a county council person.
Can I just tell you, I don't love any of them?
You can say that.
Okay, these two pretty much, go.
The last two,
The last
4
two-
and 5.
4 and 5, or 3 and 4. 3 and 4 look like they go straight up the Northfields without much forethought. Those I don't really support. I'm concerned with the first 3, 1A, 1B, and 2, because it doesn't really relieve the challenge that we have once you hit North 40 at the new light where Smith's Marketplace is going in.
Okay, so you think a hybrid of these
I think
5?
and what that looks like, I am not committed to anything because I don't know the answers
Right.
to all of that.
No, but I think the public does want to understand,
Correct.
and whether you're going to fight for our citizens' wishes.
Well,
not just sit back and go, well, there's nothing we can do.
I don't think so. That's not how I feel like we should govern anyway. I feel like, you have to listen to the public, but they have to also be willing to compromise and to be willing to say, okay, we don't really like any of this, but could we do a combination of whatever this looks like?
Okay.
So that's kind of where I feel like I am on that.
No, I appreciate it, and let's move on.
Okay,
Because we've
perfect.
got a
Great.
few other questions here. The property tax issue has been a huge issue for our county for 3-4 years,
Long time,
easily.
yeah.
But longer than that. So what do you understand the problem to be? What do you hear from the public? But what is your understanding of what the problem is with our property taxes?
So what I have understand, and it's going to be kind of a blame game, and I don't really want to do that because I think there were some mistakes made, and I think they've been tried to be corrected, and then I think policies of how we assess those taxes have changed, and so I think we've hit kind of this perfect storm, and the supply and demand for property in Wasatch County has skyrocketed, and I think that helps to drive some of this crazy tax information. And I don't understand the tax laws the way you do, because that's kind of always been your passion and you study those, which I really appreciate.
Well, and I think the public has a problem with the inequities of it.
Yes.
Some people had not gotten assessed in
Exactly.
5-6 years, and others get assessed every year and they're paying full market value and others aren't.
Right.
And so that is part of it. It's not just what we're being taxed,
Right.
it's that it's not equitable
And how it's
fair.
being done.
And that's in the Utah Constitution, fair
Right.
and equitable tax system.
Absolutely.
So let's move on.
Okay.
Also, the county is looking to build a new building over by Southfield Park. They already own land out there on the west side. It's supposedly somewhere close to the bypass going around the west
Across
side.
from the Southfield.
But it's not going to affect the bypass at all. But they passed, some architectural RFPs and looking at a lease revenue bond for $30 million for this administration building. My first question is, how do you feel about lease revenue bonds? And secondly, do you think now's the proper time to be building a brand new administration building when there's a lot of other pressures
Right.
countywide that we need basic services?
So that is a great question that I don't really have a good answer for that, because I don't understand the revenue bond, the way that it's working, exactly
Well,
what
let
that
me-
means.
let me-
Explain it to me.
Well, I'm just saying very briefly, the lease revenue bond can be voted on by the county council.
Okay.
7 members of the county council, they only have to have a majority, and it doesn't go to the vote of the people. And that's
Okay.
what the school district did on the new high school.
Okay,
So
thank you.
the board gets to spend $30 million and straddle the public with debt. Just them voting on this.
Okay.
So that's our concern about it.
And so there again, I don't know the demand of the services that, when I do go to the county building, it looks like they are in a pretty tight space there. And I know that Heber City has expressed an interest of purchasing
Right.
that building. So that would help offset some of the cost. I don't know what that would be.
Right.
And so I think we need to look at the balance of what we're gonna get and what it's gonna cost. And are we overbuilding, or are we building what we need? And
Right.
I think those things need to really be considered, but it needs to be explained to the public really well why a decision was being made
Right.
in the way it was made.
Right. Another issue is the CRA with Heber City. I'm sure you've been in these county meetings
Yeah.
this year. Heber City came and discussed their CRA with the county. Do you believe county taxes should be offset? They're gonna take like an increment, kind of like what MIDA's doing, but that the county funds should be used to revitalize Main Street in Heber?
So we did a CDRA in Midway for the grocery store, just for that one project, and the county did. It's not all of the taxes, the county doesn't completely fund it. It's the increment, the increase. So you get the existing tax, it's the increase, forego
Right.
the increase on those taxes.
Right.
So to me, it would have to be, what is the countywide benefit? If there is a countywide benefit to doing this, but we have to go back to address the traffic problem before you can
Well,
really even
and,
address this
and
problem.
we've heard from a lot of residents in Wasatch County about this. They're concerned about it.
Yeah.
They're like, look, my taxes, I don't live in Heber. I mean, that's what they're saying. I don't
Right.
live in Heber. I live in the county. Heber City's trying to go to the school district and do the same thing.
Right.
And so, county residents are saying, I I pay my county taxes, I want it to be used for county services.
Right.
Same thing with the school district, I'm paying school district taxes,
I
it
want
should
it for
go
the
to the schools. I don't want it, so it's just something that, you should be aware that there's a public sentiment about using.
Correct, and that's why I say it
These
needs to
funds.
really be looked into and look at what would be the benefit county-wide if they chose to do this.
Right.
But it needs to be really looked into.
Well, it's the future benefit of more tax money.
Right.
Because if they revitalize Main Street,
Yeah,
then everybody will have more taxes. You know, it's like,
yeah.
anyway, it's just something you need to be aware of.
Right.
And quite honestly, voters want you to take positions on some of these things. Do you know what I mean? It's like, look, it's kind of black and white here. Either you believe you can spend other people's taxes and send it over somewhere else, or it should stay with the intent of
Right.
what these taxes are
Right.
supposed to be.
And every service that the county provides has to be met first. All of the needs and the services in the county need to be met and before you ever start thinking about sending money somewhere else.
Well, it's something that everybody's talking about and
Yeah.
concerned about. So the other thing is the High Valley Transit. And there was a great meeting. If anybody wants a deep dive into the High Valley Transit, go to the May 8th Wasatch County Council meeting, because I did the other day just to like get a deep dive into it. And how I understand it is they had a tax increase. What they did is they re-upped a tax that they had last year that was going to sunset. The legislature was getting rid of this tax
Okay.
if they didn't re-up it. So the county re-upped it, and it's supposed to go towards transportation issues, which we've got enough of, right? So that's okay, but it is a sales tax. But what happened was, our sales revenue was down this year.
Correct.
It wasn't as high as they thought or
Right.
hoped. And the ridership of this
Increased.
free service increased. So now they're in a deficit of 20% for this year. And it's a 3-year contract with High Valley, so we're stuck in a contract. We've got to figure this out, and we're 2 years into it, so we have 1 more year. But they've been having discussions about this for the last couple months, but people, again, we're hearing from the public a lot, and people are like, why is it a free service? Why don't we charge fees for this? I mean, there's maybe some people, like the elderly or disabled or whatever, I'm just throwing ideas out.
Right.
This is not... But, you know, we give a free service for certain people, but a lot of this service is being used by kids that are underage, don't have a car, and one of the big drop-off places is the high school.
Yeah.
So we're subsidizing some transportation from the high
Well, it's
school.
already being provided. If you go
Right.
on the route, a bus route, you know, they're choosing.
Or they're not on the
choosing
bus route.
free Uber over riding
Right.
the big yellow bus.
Right, so the public has been getting in contact with some county council people and given them input on this. And so my question to you is, first of all, we're in this 20% deficit. How do we fix it? Do we take money from somewhere else? Do we start charging fees? What are some of your ideas on how to fix this?
Okay, so in the meetings that I've been in and what I'm kind of listening to is I feel like High Valley Transit doesn't have a way to collect any resources from the riders. That isn't a part of their service. And so, but I do believe that when it was, and I was not in those meetings, but I do believe when it was first presented to the county and to the senior citizens in some of those areas, that there was kind of this priority list of who would be first riders and who would, you know, and what the service was going to be and how it would help eliminate some of the traffic off of our roads and how it would encourage people to get to work and different
Right.
things. So
I
I think, in theory, I think there were a lot of things that, you know, sounded really good. But I know they've been collecting data, and I know that it to me, it's being misused. But I don't believe it is not our job to offer completely free service anywhere. I think there's a way to maybe the employer that benefits from their employee getting there, maybe you give them a discount on a year pass that person can use. The elderly, I think, should be our top priority. Those who are not in an assisted living facility, but who are in their homes and need a ride to a doctor's office or need a ride home from the hospital or whatever. And there are ways to structure and do that in their structure system of the High Valley Transit. So to me, this was a quote of my dad's when I was a kid, that when somebody gets something for nothing, somewhere somebody gets something, or when somebody gets something for nothing, somebody gets something for nothing. So in other words, it's not free.
Yeah.
It's
Somebody's
never,
paying.
somebody
Yeah.
is paying for this. We are all paying for this service. And is it really the benefit? Is it relieving the traffic pressure? And is it the benefit to the community that we need? Or do we look into something else?
Right. Well, I appreciate your time. I want to make sure there wasn't some issue we haven't talked about yet that you'd like to bring up right now that maybe wasn't on this list.
No, I just want the community to know that I am passionate about this valley. I have been here 46 years, but my ancestors helped to settle this valley. I wanted to preserve the integrity as much as possible, but I also think we have to be very forward-thinking and planning and working together to see things get done in a good way, not just behind the 8 ball all the time and putting Band-Aids on things.
Well, I'd like to ask you then, I mean, it's either status quo, you know, get along, do what you gotta do to get along with everybody, or are you gonna make some changes? Are you gonna be a person that, you know, our valley's changed
Correct.
in the last 6 years. It's not the same valley as when you were in office, quite
Right. Oh,
honestly. I
exactly.
mean, you know, the population is expanding, and so I think a lot of voters do want somebody to stick up for them.
Right.
That's part of why you're
Yeah.
a public servant
Yes.
is to, and I think that's some of the concerns
Yeah.
is they do want a fighter in there to as a fighter for our valley, for
Yeah.
our citizens, not,
Right. Right.
and so maybe you could address that.
So that is something that I'm not afraid of the fight. I'm really not, and I think that if we don't listen to the public and not everybody's going to get the answer they want. But I think there's, in good planning and compromise and working together, we can resolve a lot of issues together. So I want to have an open door policy where I spend time in the county council in a room somewhere that people can come once a week or whatever and say, hey, this is my issue. I want to be open to the public.
Now, I think you just told me why the voters should vote for you, which was my
Thank
next
you.
question. So can you just tell them where they can find you?
So right
Your
now,
website? your-
I have a website, Colleen Bonner for Wasatch County Council. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, and I've put my phone number out there. I'm happy to listen to phone calls. If people want to call me, give them my number, they can call.
Okay, great. Thanks so
Okay.
much. And go to WasatchTaxpayersAssociation.com. Thanks.